This movie, I'd like to talk about visibility graphic overrides. We use visibility graphic overrides to customize the way that a particular view displays. All of the model elements that you see in a view represent real-life objects, and as we've seen in previous movies, if you modify them in one view, they modify in all views. But with visibility graphics overrides, we can actually customize the way those model objects display in a particular view. A really simple example is that you could have your walls be purple in one view and leave them black in another view. Or you could turn off your furniture in one view and leave it turned on in another view. And the list of possibilities is virtually endless. I've got a file here on screen called Visibility, and it's got a color fill assigned to it right now for the rooms. And what I'd like to do is customize this plan a little bit further. I want to make it into a more complete presentation plan. So I've got some ideas about how I might want to do that. Now, the first thing is best practice dictates that we really ought to do this work in a copy of this floor plan. If you notice over here on my project browser, I'm currently in level 1 floor plan. If I right-click that, I've got some ways that I can duplicate this view. Now, let me kind of contrast these first two to you here, duplicate and duplicate with detailing. I'm going to choose duplicate and notice what I get. I get a copy of the graphics. I get a copy of the view with all the model elements, but none of the annotation gets duplicated. So I lost the dimensions, I lost the room tags. That kind of information is view specific. Now, if I go back to the original level 1, it's still here. So it's not that it deleted it everywhere. It's just that it didn't get copied, actually, is the correct way to say it, to the new copy of the view. Now, let's contrast that to duplicate with detailing. Detailing is just the word that Revit uses to collectively refer to all of that view-specific stuff, the notes, the text, the dimensions, the legends, the tags. Those are all collectively referred to as detailing, and you can see that this time I got a copy of the view complete with all of its detailing. So you can do it either way. I'm going to right-click this new view, and I'm going to rename it as Presentation Plan. I'm going to take the original copy of level 1, and I'll just press my delete key to get rid of that. I don't need that one anymore. Now, there's a few ways we could start to customize the way that this view displays. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the walls. Now, let's go over here to the View tab. And on the Graphics panel here, there's a button called Visibility Graphics. And this is the Visibility Graphic Overrides for Floor Plan Presentation. So it's important to realize that any changes we make in this dialog are only going to affect the current view that we have open. They do not apply across the entire project. So I'm only going to focus on the Model tab right now, and then only on specific categories. So we've got model categories here, and then in this column, you could see all the various categories listed. Now let's scroll down and locate the walls category, and I'll select that. If you look across at all the columns on the right here, we've got projection and surface, we've got cut, we've got this halftone and detail level. Under projection and surface, we have lines, patterns, transparency, and under cut, we have lines and patterns. All of our walls are being cut through in a floor plan. It's just like you learned in architecture school. Basically, imagine you're cutting through the building at a few feet above the floor, and all those walls are actually being cut through. If I want to make a modification to the way that the walls display in this plan, it's the cut that I want to consider. Now, we could customize the line work, which is the outline that we're cutting through, or we could customize the pattern. That's what I'm going to do here. The pattern is the fill that we're seeing between the two lines. Now, currently, there's no pattern being assigned. But if I come down here, I can click this Override button. That will give me some options for the fill pattern. And I'm going to choose a pattern with this Browse button here. And you can see that I have a whole bunch of patterns to choose from. I can choose crosshatches, and I can choose diagonal lines, and so on. I'm going to come down here and pick a solid fill. Click OK. Now, it's currently solid black. That may be a little bit overpowering, so let me click right above that on the color, and let's choose a color that's maybe a little bit less intense. So I'm going to pick this greenish color right here, click OK, and you can see that that updates the solid fill to that color. Let's click OK again, and one more time to see the effect. Notice that all of the walls now in this plan are now shaded in with that greenish color in their cut pattern. And that happened across the entire plan. Now, it's really important to understand that that change only affects this view, presentation plan. If I go back to level 1 floor plan, notice that these walls are unaffected by the change. So let's go back to presentation. So what else can we do? Well, I'm going to pan this drawing over a little bit and zoom in so that we can see the furniture a little bit more clearly. And let's do another example with the furniture. So I'm going to go back to Visibility Graphics here on the View tab. And I've got the dialog over here on the left, and I've got my furniture showing there on the right. Let's select the furniture category and look at some of the other things we can do. So if you wanted to, you could override the line pattern. Now, this is in projection this time because we're not cutting through the furniture. We're actually looking down on the furniture. So it's the projection line, and you could change the line weight and choose a different line weight. You could change its color or assign a line pattern, a dashed line. So you could make them dashed or dotted lines and what have you. I'm not going to do any of those changes here, so I'll cancel that. But I am going to look at the pattern. Maybe I want to put a surface pattern on the surface of those furniture items. So I'm going to click this override button right here and open up the list of patterns and maybe choose this diagonal crosshatch. When I click OK and then apply that, you can see that this hatch pattern now fills in all the furniture in the same way that we just did with the walls. So that's one option. You could also decide you don't want to see the furniture at all. You could turn it off altogether. I could uncheck this box, click apply, and the furniture would disappear. So regardless of whatever customization you've done to it, it's simply not displaying. I want to stress that we've only hidden it in this view. The furniture still exists in the model. Okay, let's turn it back on. Let's click apply. Next to it is a transparency slider. So if you click the override there, you get this slider. 0% transparent means 100% opaque, so it's a little confusing. Let's drag this slider and make it about 45% transparent. Click OK and apply that. Notice that that greenish color for the fill pattern underneath is now showing through the furniture. So that's another effect that you could start to do there. Let me take that. Let's turn off the transparency, going back to 0%. And what about halftone? Let's see what that looks like. Click apply. Now it goes back to being fully opaque, but notice that instead of solid black lines for the outlines, all the outlines are now in this halftone gray color. As you can see, there's a variety of different things that you can start to do, and I'm only addressing one category. Every category in this list could be customized accordingly, and again, it would apply to this view. So if you start to combine the potential that's available in that visibility graphics dialog and combine that with creating multiple views to serve different purposes, it becomes very easy for you to create highly focused views that are specialized on delivering a certain kind of information. So the visibility graphics command is this very powerful tool that allows you to achieve multiple views, each focused towards a very specific purpose in your document set.